Thank you. So, older workers are the fastest growing share of the workforce. And one big reason for that is because it's gotten a whole lot harder for Americans to retire because high costs and low wages squeeze families. So here we are in the richest country in the world where I think workers ought to be able to work for fair pay and fair conditions and then retire with security. But many workers post-retirement are back in the workforce in part-time jobs. And one of the things they encounter there are what are called just-in-time scheduling practices. This is when employers give workers their schedules at the very last minute, sometimes as little as a day or two before their scheduled shift. And while that might be just in time working for an AI algorithm, looking at the latest foot traffic, for example, in a grocery store, it is great for the algorithm, but not so great for the workers. So do you go to the doctor's appointment, or do you skip the shift and not get paid? Will you be able to pay your electric bill if your shift this week gets canceled? Older workers are more likely to be part-time, where just-in-time scheduling practices are far more common. So, Ms. LeaMond, you're the Chief Advocacy and Engagement Officer at AARP. Why are last-minute schedule changes particularly difficult for older workers?
Well, Senator, I think last-minute schedule changes are difficult for all workers. And I will say, I think you all know AARP has offices in every state. So I oversee a staff of 700 multi-generational workers. And my experience has been on all issues related to flexibility. It is just as much a concern of younger workers as it is older workers. I would say older workers may be juggling a few more caregiving duties and medical appointments. Mothers and fathers in their 40s and 50s are the sandwich generation, dealing with children and those responsibilities along with caregiving. And our younger staff, I find, are the busiest because many of them are in school at night and juggling lots of other duties. So I think flexibility is something that doesn't just affect older workers, but all workers. Mm-hmm. You've raised something important, though, which is when we've talked a lot about workforce flexibility, it's been framed in terms of working at home or working in the office. And really what I find most of the discussion to be about is not so much that, but work hours. Can it be flexible so maybe I can drop my kids off at school in the morning and then work a little later? Can I adjust my hours in some other ways? And I think employers that are committed to multi-generational workforces are beginning to adapt and understand how important flexibility is. I think we all benefit from knowing our schedule in advance. I was joking with the team that I think we all appreciated being invited last week to testify rather than last night. And those are the kinds of things I think we can all benefit from.
Yeah, and can you just say a word about what happens to workers when last-minute work schedule changes conflict with their obligations outside work? I kind of given my own summary, but you're the expert. You're running a staff of 700.
Well, when schedules change, one of two things happen. You either have to arrange something in your personal life, often with some cost, or you miss something at work. And that, depending on your employer, can be a matter for discussion or a matter for serious confrontation. Mm-hmm. And I think it really depends, and it's incumbent on all of us, I think, to talk much more about what are the labor force needs. We are going to have to engage more older workers in jobs across this country. And what does that mean? And what does that mean also for our multi-generational workforces?
So it seems to me that we need some guidance around this. As you say, some employers are changing, but many are not. Sure. And so the question becomes, what is the right way? What should be the workplace rules? I've got a bill called Schedules That Work, and it would give employees just a couple of rights. One is the right to request a schedule that works for them without getting fired for making the request. I know that seems like common sense, but for a lot of people, that's not happening for them in the workforce. And the second thing is to say, if schedules are going to be changed at the last minute, then there needs to be some compensation for the worker. You can't hold people, in effect, on call. That is, you're going to come in next Thursday, you agree you're coming in next Thursday, you will be there next Thursday, and then on Thursday morning you get a call that says, don't come in, and don't get paid for the day. If you held your Thursday open, then there needs to be some compensation in return for that. And I think your point is right, Ms. LeaMond, that it would be helpful for workers of all ages, but it is particularly helpful for workers who are part-time workers, because they face this so much more than full-time workers do, and particularly helpful for workers who have obligations outside the workforce. So I'm going to continue to work on this. I'm going to encourage other members of the Aging Committee to take a look at it, just to try to get some guidelines in place that will be helpful for all of our workers, but I think will have a special benefit for our older workers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.